Let's go back in the back and give her a test." On the other hand, if he didn't have what you wanted, he'd shake his head just a trifle, then squint up at you and say, "What do you want it for?" And if you could tell him what you planned to do with the piece you wanted, 9 times out of 10, he would come up with something else that would do the job as well or better. In either case, he always insisted that the piece be tested. He refused either to buy or sell something that didn't work. So you'd follow him down that long hallway to the lab in the rear, where all the testing equipment was. The lab, too, was cluttered, but in a different way. Out front, the stuff was dead. Back here, there was power coursing through the ionic veins and metallic nerves of the half-living machines. Things were labeled in neat, accurate script, not for old Harry's benefit, but for the edification of his customers, so they wouldn't put their fingers in the wrong places. He never had to worry about whether his customers knew enough to fend for themselves. A few minutes spent in talking was enough to tell Harry whether a man knew enough about the science and art of electronics and subelectronics to be trusted in the lab. If you didn't measure up, you didn't get invited to the lab, even to watch a test. But he had very few people like that. Nobody came into Harry McDougal's place unless he was pretty sure of what he wanted and how he wanted to use it. On the other hand, there were very few men whom Harry would allow into the lab unescorted. Mike the Angel was one of them. Meet Mike the Angel. Full name, Michael Raphael Gabriel. His mother had tagged that on him at the time of his baptism, which had made his father wince in anticipated compassion. But there had been nothing for him to say, not in the middle of the ceremony. Naturally, he had been tagged Mike the Angel. 6'7", 260 pounds, 34 years of age, hair golden yellow, eyes deep blue, cash value of holdings well into 8 figures, credit almost unlimited. Marital status highly eligible if the right woman could tackle him. Mike the Angel pushed open the door to Harry McDougal's shop and took off his hat to brush the raindrops from it. Farther uptown, the streets were covered with clear plastic roofing, but that kind of comfort stopped at 53rd Street. There was no one in sight in the long, narrow store, so Mike the Angel looked up at the ceiling, where he knew the eye was hidden. "Harry," he said. "I see you, lad," said a voice from the air. "You got here just in time. I'm closing up. Lock the door, would you?" "Sure, Harry." Mike turned around, pressed the locking switch, and heard it snap satisfactorily. "Okay, Mike," said Harry McDougal's voice. "Come on back. I hope you brought that bottle of scotch I asked for." Mike the Angel made his way back between the towering tiers of bins as he answered. "Sure did, Harry. When did I ever forget you?" And, as he moved toward the rear of the store, Mike the Angel casually reached into his coat pocket and triggered the switch of a small but fantastically powerful mechanism that he always carried when he walked the streets of New York at night. He was headed straight into trouble, and he knew it. And he hoped he was ready for it. End of Chapter 1. Unwise Child by Randall Garrett. Chapter 2. Mike the Angel kept his hand in his pocket, his thumb on a little plate that was set in the side of the small mechanism that was concealed therein. As he neared the door, the little plate began to vibrate, making a buzz which could only be felt, not heard. Mike sighed to himself. Vibroblades were all the rage this season. He pushed open the rear door rapidly and stepped inside. It was just what he'd expected. His eyes saw, and his brain recorded the whole scene in the fraction of a second before he moved. In that fraction of a second, he took in the situation, appraised it, planned his strategy, and launched into his plan of action. Harry McDougal was sitting at his workbench, near the controls of the eye that watched the shop when he was in the lab. He was hunched over a little, his small bright eyes peering steadily at Mike the Angel from beneath shaggy, silvered brows. There was no pleading in them.